the Spiritual Authority series. We'll talk today about what rebellion looks like. And I found this is true. Toddlers and puppies are the same. Anybody agree? They really are. And even presidents, do this. After it was disclosed that President Bush has banned broccoli aboard Air Force One, the nation was embroiled in broccoli discussion. Anybody remember this? I do. As broccoli growers dispatched 10 tons of the vegetable free to Washington, the president reiterated his distaste with gusto. I do not like broccoli, and I haven't liked it since I was a little kid, and my mother made me eat it. And I'm president of the United States, and I'm not going to eat any more broccoli. Now look, this is the last statement I'm going to have on broccoli. There are truckloads of broccoli at this very minute descending on Washington. My family's divided. For the broccoli vote out there, Barbara loves broccoli. She's tried to make me eat it. She eats it all the time herself. So she can go out and meet the caravan of broccoli that's coming in. I remember I was at Bible college when this all happened. And for that entire week, broccoli was a part of every meal, including breakfast. Okay? It was like a boycott. But sometimes people just say, I'm not going to do it. I'm President of the United States. You can't make me. I mean, there's not really a higher calling in that sense than that as far as a job office, but nonetheless, we are the same. Rebellion manifests itself in your life and in my life, sometimes very sneakily and sometimes very proudly at times. For him to say, I'm not going to eat it, but my wife Barbara, she can go down and eat all she wants. I don't know if you remember this, folks, but the Women's Lib movement was furious with President Bush at that. He was saying, I'm not going to do it, but my wife will. Anybody remember what I'm talking about? It was a big deal, okay? So even rebellion in this sense comes up in this word. So I want to see what the word says. There are three things, three areas where rebellion builds itself up in your life if you're not careful. And the first is in our words. Any surprises there? I don't think so. Ephesians 5:6. Let no one deceive you with empty words. For because of these things, the wrath of God comes upon the sons of disobedience. Empty words are hollow, shameless principle or promises. On the way there and the way back, I listened to a lot of talk radio on Sirius XM, and I kept hearing about all these timeshare recovery plans. From people who had bought a timeshare and bought this, and this guy says, I used to work for them, and now I know all they do is lie to you, and you can't get your open date, you can't do this, and so I'm helping people get their money back from a timeshare. In other words, what the guy was saying was, somebody lied to us about this, and now you're stuck in a plan you can't get out of or whatever. So, an empty promise, empty words. Be careful when someone speaks a word over you that you don't know. Be very careful when people just speak words over you at conferences or at this altar. Because anyone that gives you a word, it should already be in your heart. And what they're saying is confirming what you've already heard. No one's going to come up and say, oh, Sylvia, I got this word of God and it's all about this and you're going to be a missionary in Peru, and she's never heard that. But all of a sudden, people hear it out loud, right? That's the kind of stuff Paul's talking about here. So be careful what you prophesy into people's lives. Make sure it's the sure word of God, the pure word. You see, the words are the outlet of the heart, and they reveal the full surrender and obedience to Christ that we have in our lives. Our words should be more than just a bond. Our words should matter. Should be truthful, should be honest, should be able to be trusted. Recognize. National Geographic, many years ago in the 1960s, was called into a courtroom case over somebody's question about something that happened in California during the gold rush. And the judge said, who's your witness? And the guy said, National Geographic. And the other person said, I want to drop my case then. Well, what do you mean? You brought this. Well, if his witness is National Geographic, those guys are experts in the field here. And I don't have anybody like that, so I'm just going to back away and drop the court case. All because the reputation and the name of National Geographic, knowing and understanding history and geography in that arena. That's the kind of life we want to live and have when it comes to those things, because we represent Christ as an ambassador. Be careful with your words. Like when the hammer slips. know, but it's not a noise to grunt, it's a word that shouldn't be said in public or around children or older ladies or something like that. Whatever you know what I'm saying. We got to be careful what we say and how we say it. Even the attitude that comes out. Yes, dear. Notice only men are smiling on that one. Because the attitude matters as well. Our words matter because when we speak, we represent Jesus. What do you say to Pilate? As you have said. In that regards. Numbers 12:2. And they said, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us as well? And it says, and the Lord heard it. So all these people are complaining, Moses, you're not the only one people, you're not the only one the Lord speaks to. We've spoken as well. And it says the Lord heard it. Be careful what you say about who you are or who you think you are sometimes. Because if we're not careful, our words will become in our heart, and that rebellious aspect begins to take over. And so we start saying things we should have never said to begin with, about things we should have never talked about to begin with. In an audience of people we should have never talked about to begin with. So if we're not careful in our words, we will find ourselves in trouble with rebellion. Jesus said, I tell you, every careless word that people speak, they shall give an accounting for it in the day of judgment. The word for careless there in the Greek literally means trash that you throw away. Now, I'm not saying the trash talk that happens on a basketball court. Okay? But Jesus said, every careless word you speak, every careless word that comes out of your mouth to anybody about anything that you say, you'll be judged for it. Now, here's the key. It's a careless word that you will give an account for in judgment. Anything you say can and will be held against you. No, not held, used against you. But in God's court, they are held and accounting for the day of judgment. Junior, how many times have you said anything you say can and will be held against you in the court of law? Too many. Does that sometimes actually get people to think, have you ever been, someone just run their mouth and you say that and they shut up? You see, when you're speaking things just out of random or whatever, I like watching cops, I'm just going to tell you. I always know it's the guy not wearing a shirt that did it, but nonetheless, if they're hiding in a trash can, they did it, okay? That's all there is to it. But I like to watch how the cops handle themselves when they're dealing with belligerent, just mean, shackled people. And I've seen it, they say, everything you say can't be held, and you think, and you see that person just want to say something else, and something else, and something else. And the friends are going, shut up, stop. And yet how often in our faith are we not careful with every careless word? I'm not talking to young and teens today. I'm talking to every one of us, including those of you in your 70s and 80s. A friend who had a wife who started to go through Alzheimer's. And he was always scared to take her out and do things because he never knew what she was going to say. And this dyed-in-the-wool, wonderful woman of God who had been raised all her life in the church began to suddenly start swearing out loud in the middle of Walmart or the IGA or a restaurant. Would start screaming curse words for no reason at all. I told his pastor one day, he said, Pastor, I'm really worried that God's going to hold me accountable for what she's saying because I'm taking her out in public. Will God hold me accountable because he said, we're doing medication, we're doing all this thing, but I want to get her out in the public, but I'm afraid when I take her out, she's going to yell and scream these words, and then I feel about this tall, but yet I'm trying to socialize her and keep some things going, so am I going to be held accountable for her careless words? I thought, wow. My friend told me the story, I was impressed with that because this husband was concerned about his wife's careless words getting judged on him. You know what? He was taking that the right way. I don't think he's going to be judged for it. But I'm glad he was so sensitive to what his wife was saying. Because really, aren't we kind of colored by the company we keep? And doesn't the Bible tell us to avoid the very appearance of evil? And so even the people you're around, the language they use, the things that they say, we got to be careful with in that regard. We'll be judged for it. There's two things that cause Christians to lose their power. Number one is sin and reviling of authority. You start taking on authority, you start putting people down. There's a way to criticize leadership without stepping over a line. And sometimes even the church world, if we're not careful, we start criticizing this or criticizing that, or saying this about the president, or this about the governor of the state, or this, or all these different things. Could those not be considered careless words? In the book of Jude, he said he didn't even speak a bad word against Satan himself. Because he realized that Satan was a spiritual dignitary. Yes, a fallen angel. Yes, he was Lucifer. But they would not speak that kind of word out in public about that sort of thing. There's a place to air your grievances about leadership and problems, and it's not Facebook. Amen. Okay? Facebook is a pulpit, and every one of you stand at the Facebook pulpit, or Instagram or Twitter, whatever else you're using. You stand in that pulpit and you preach and declare something out there. Most likely people will disagree and be frustrated. That's okay. But one day every Facebook post will be judged by the God who spoke life into that person's body and gave them the ability to speak and to write and to type that post. Because once again, and let's face it, most Facebook posts are careless anyway. I've never had my life changed because of a Facebook post. I've never had, divine understanding of anything based on Facebook. Anybody else here? Maybe it changed your life. I don't know, but you got to go watch those things. Matthew 12:37, for by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. These are the words of Jesus. So if we're not careful, there will be rebellion in our life in how we speak and what we say to those around us, right? So we got to be careful. Your words matter on the job, at work, at home, with the kids. Your words matter. They matter. They matter. They matter. The next area is in our reasons. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, 18 to 31 is a little bit long, but it says this. For the word of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing. But to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the cleverness of the clever I will set aside. Where is the wise man? Where is the scribe? There's a reason he put that word in there. Because the Jewish leaders were like, we are the wisest of people everywhere. You have to listen to us. We alone speak truth. Where's the debater of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? For since in the wisdom of God, the world through his wisdom did not come to know God, God was well pleased with the foolishness of the message preached to save those who believe. For indeed, Jews ask for signs and Greeks search for wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified, to Jews a stumbling block, and to Gentiles foolishness. But to those who are called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ the power of God and the wisdom of God, because the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. For consider your calling, brethren. There were not many mighty or wise according to the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble, but God has chosen the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. And God has chosen the weak things of the world to shame the things which are strong. And the base things of the world and the despised God has chosen, the things that are not, so that he may nullify the things that are. So that no man may boast before God, but by his doing you are in Christ Jesus, and who became to us wisdom from God and righteousness and sanctification and redemption. So that just as it is written, let him who boasts, boast in the Lord. This is where we come to the place in our world, our culture, where stupidity sometimes reigns. And here's why. We are fallen, and every reason, and our reason is fallen. The minute you woke up today, yes, you've been sanctified, you've been set free by Christ, but you still have a reason that wants to go to the pit, right? So if any one of you this morning suddenly got sick, felt a real bad pain in your heart, what are you thinking? Oh, heart attack. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm talking how quickly we think, oh, it's going to be a heart attack. But it could be what you ate last night. Okay? But think about it this way. God's Word says, I chose the foolish thing. In other words, we are saved because God sent His Son to die on a cross, a forsaken piece of Gentile judgment that Assyria created 3,000 years ago and Rome perfected. And because somebody dies on the cross, we can get set free of our sins. Kind of sounds crazy, doesn't it? Kind of sounds crazy. What is Garen doing to that child? It wasn't you? I figured it was Garen. He's pointing to you, Brandon. All right. You better get ready for that. How often do we criticize and put something down that we see because it looks silly or stupid, and yet creation is hard to explain to a lot of folks? So how did we come up with one individual male and female of every single species, animal on the planet? That's the question I've got. Shakespeare made a statement about there's nothing as incredible as a tree. You ever seen God's ability in nature? You ever looked at the fingerprints on your hands and realized that nobody else ever has, ever will, or ever did have the same 10 fingerprints that you did? You have? That's an incredible act of creation. And so God says, He says, look, you don't need the politics or the government or this or that. I'm the answer. I'll work everything out through those agencies, but you got to understand that we're fallen. And so when we come up with our own ideas, the reason our own ideas fail is because they are fallen ideas to begin with. We have a vaccination for polio, right? Why isn't it going? We have some specific cures for cancer, right? Why isn't it all gone? They're working on a bionic pancreas for diabetics. It will still require insulin in a machine that's underneath the skin. It still requires insulin, right? Think of your disease, your condition, your this, your that, whatever. You still got to have something to help your body adjust, right? Now, if we weren't fallen, we'd have it all figured out. If we'd never fallen, there wouldn't be no sin. There wouldn't be any sickness, any illness, any pain, any disease at all. But we're not there. We're in a whole different part of the world. And God says, I'm going to use the things that drive people crazy to prove who I am. That's where we are in life, in this regards. See, the more you spend, the more time you spend in His glory, the less time you will reason in the flesh. If we're not careful in our thought life, situation happens, okay, God, I need you to help me know what to do. And then we start planning what we're going to do without waiting to hear what God tells us to do. Anybody ever done that? Like since 6 a.m. this morning? You see, so often we use our own reason to figure things out. Whether it's a financial situation, a relationship issue, a physical thing, all this stuff that's going on around us. We say, okay, God, we're going to pray and ask you to do this, but actually we're just going to do what we want to do because it's how it works. Don't we do that? Every hand should be up because that's how we do. A lot of times we don't even spend the time to say, Lord, I need you to help me figure this out. And so in our reasoning, our default setting is, okay, how can I fix this? Right? Instead of, Lord, how do you want to work in this situation for your glory? Financial situation hits us, we're trying to figure out what to do. And instead of spending that first 10 minutes praying, we're thinking, okay, I got this in savings, I can move this here, I can call this person, right? You're all still with me, right? Because in our reasoning, we want to solve and fix the problem. Men were the worst. We want to fix the problem right there and then. Especially if it involves a backhoe, heavy equipment. It's just the way it is. We try to enable situations, try to get things figured out because I mean, God, I know you're there, I know you're listening, but I need an answer right now. And I don't have 3 or 4 days to wait for you to show me this through circumstances and conversations. So I'm just going to go and do the thing. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm just going to go and do the thing that I'm going to do because I'm going to do it. And I'm probably, how many of you ever thought in and of yourselves, I'm probably better at figuring this out than God is, because it's my life, and I know the situation, and God, I know you're way up there, and you're doing this, you're doing that, but I'm here, and I can, oh, come on, we've all done that. We've all second-guessed God because we're human, and we've lived it, and we do it, right? How many of you have second-guessed God? Jumps there, foot's in the air. Do it all our lives. Because our reasoning says we should be able to figure this out or fix this. The Word says the just shall live by faith. That means there's times we say, okay, God, I can't figure this out, but I'm going to trust you to take care of it. And the last thing is in our thoughts. 2 Corinthians 10, 4-6. The weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but divinely powerful for the destruction of fortresses. We are destroying speculations and every lofty thing raised up against the knowledge of God. And we're taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. And we're ready to punish all disobedience whenever your obedience is complete. When it comes to rebellion, your thought is the central factor in rebellion. Because it all starts right here. They've given me that promotion. How if we have a different president? That congressman had done this. Why did my kid have to make that stupid decision? What happens with our thoughts? You ever had a thought and you get upset immediately? Anger rises, your face gets red. Nobody said a word, but you thought something. Our thoughts. That's why he said, take every thought captive. Because he knows that if we start thinking about stuff we shouldn't be thinking about, what's going to happen? We'll go where we shouldn't go. Right. You're just worthless. You're stupid. You're ugly. You're overweight. You're underweight. Nobody loves you. Nobody cares about you. You're never going to pass it. Never do anything. I don't know about you, but I hear stuff like that from time to time in my head. I have an enemy that constantly reminds me of where things are lame in my life or weak in my life. I've seen those intense mental, spiritual battles in my life that I've ever had in my life since coming here. Really. If that surprises you or shocks you, I'm sorry, I'm human just like you. So I kind of have a picture of what goes on in your heads too. How the enemy speaks, what he says to us. Reason has to be fought with spiritual weapons. That's why he said, taking every thought captive. King James says, the weapons of my warfare are not carnal, but are mighty through God for the pulling down of strongholds. That's how I've had it memorized for decades of my life. For every bad thing said to you about something, it takes 36 good things for you to kind of get back out of the ditch. Matter of fact, psychology today actually changed that. Several years ago they said, for every bad thing it takes 17 good things to get you. Now it's 36. It's almost double. Why? Because in our culture we're more sensitive to what we hear, what we see, what we do. So when someone says, man, that was stupid what you did, you think about that. And you hold on to that. So you make some mistakes, whether it's relationships, family, money, school, education, class, and you start thinking, oh man, you start beating yourself up over it. Don't have to do that. But there's an enemy that puts those thoughts in your head. So we got to fight these things with the spiritual things. Some fail to believe in Christ because they reason the need for Him away. I know people who have convinced themselves they don't need God because God's not there. This guy I grew up with, and his grandma had died when he was 4 years old. He blamed God because God should have kept his grandma alive. Now, when you're 4 years old, your theology isn't real sound, nor your social understanding, nor your social skills. But he had a mom and dad who told him how bad it was that God let that grandma die. And God did that, and God could have healed her, and God did that because God didn't do it. He's to blame for all. And that kid grew up the rest of his life hating God he never met, knew about, understood, never gone to church because somebody said that God's bad. And sometimes when you sit down with those folks who've already reasoned the need for God away, there's not a whole lot of stuff you can lay on the ground to get them a bridge to walk across to get to Jesus. Because the things that have been said, the words that have been told to them, has affected their reasoning, and their thoughts now based on those two things become worse and worse and worse. Which is why when you first become a Christian, you need to start getting into the Bible itself, the Word of God. You need to make sure you're watching. Look, I don't say a whole lot about it, but I think we have to be real careful with secular music. Okay? I got saved at 15. God gave me a personal conviction. Stop listening to secular music at all. And so I stopped. That was my conviction, nobody else's. But when I look at some of the things that you hear and you see, music is a vehicle of expression. And it changes cultures. It changes ideologies. It changes thoughts. Understandings of life. Understandings of culture. Understandings of government. Those things are impacted by music. Matter of fact, Barna Research and the millennial group, there's a group called millennialinfo.com, and they have found that music influences the thoughts and patterns of millennials today more than any other object. They don't watch the news. They're not listening to podcasts. They're listening to music. And guess what helps these younger kids today learn about their world? Music. So we got to be careful what we put into our heads. Even as adults. Now look, I'm not going to say, you need to pray. Lord, what should I do? Okay? I'm not saying change the music you listen to. I'm not saying, throw it away. I'm not saying that at all. But you got to be, but secular music, if we're not careful, it affects our emotions. And those of us who grew up in the 80s, we know what I'm talking about. Music in that generation, from the 60s on, started changing the way that people think. Attitudes, all that stuff happened because of music. So we have to be careful what we put into our heads and watch what we allow to go into our heads in that regard. Satan reasoned with Eve. He said, look, Eve, here's the deal. God does not want you to eat from that tree because He knows that when you do, you'll be just like Him. Just like Him. So that's why you need to eat from this tree. He doesn't want you to have all the powers that He has. He doesn't want you to have all the knowledge that He has, so eat it. And by the way, you can take your husband to do it too. Want to be equally yoked, so you need to be part of that too. That's why the Antichrist is going to be such a big deal. He'll be a God just like us. Human. Raised from the dead. Read Revelation, you'll see He's raised from the dead. People are going to worship Him. Worship that spirit of who He is. Because He's going to say, do what you want. Live how you want. Take care. Just be happy. And that, don't worry, be happy. All right. Is that biblical? Is don't worry, be happy biblical? How about this? Don't worry, be content. Is that more biblical? How about don't worry, be righteous? We've got this idea that, just think through our things. Oh, just declare that's not there. Just, oh, wait a minute. I think I said this a couple weeks ago. I went to Bible college with some folks that were very, very much Copeland and Hagen, okay? And one of the guys and I would run in the mornings, and I was running. My ankle was kind of hurt one morning. I got up and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna go ice my ankle down." "What do you mean?" So what's this kind of sore? Don't say that. Don't say that. It wasn't sore because I was saying it. It was sore because I twisted it the night before. He's okay. But then it's more like, well, just don't say how you feel. Don't say how. And this guy would, one day he skipped class. "Hey, where were you?" "Oh, don't worry. No, where were you?" "Don't want to say it." "Say what?" I was sick. Okay. Oh no, I should have said that. It's like, are you crazy? If any among you is, let him call. What does that verse tell the sick person to do? Tell somebody they're sick. Does that ruin your spiritual life? Does that mean you're worthless and weak and shouldn't have faith at all? No. So if we're not careful, these ideas. So if you get a pain, hold on, I'm going to claim it. It's not about claiming. How can you claim? No, seriously. Can you claim healing? Are you a healer? To say I claim my healing, who are you standing on to get that healing? Has to come from Christ. So who's going to give it? Him. And if we're not careful, we've got this thing set aside to where we don't tell anybody how we feel. We're all just, all the time. Got that fake laugh. That bothers me in Pentecostal service because that's not real. And if the Bible says if any of you is sick, any of you happy, rejoice, right? We got to be careful because if we start saying, well, don't say that, don't say that, don't say. Wait a minute. My body in and of itself cannot heal itself. I can add the vitamin C, I can add all sorts of things to the diet. Every 7 years, every cell is different, changed, and distinct. But I have to lean on the Lord to heal me. So where's my faith? My faith cannot be, oh, I didn't claim that, I didn't claim that. My faith has to be in the God who can, and the God who does, and the God who wills. And when and if that God doesn't heal you, what are you going to do? Because I've done enough funerals, and I've done enough visitation with people who were told by their pastors and their friends, well, that sentence is because of sin. You just confess, That's what word of faith stuff is done on the wrong side, okay? Not all word of faith stuff is bad, but I'm telling you what, when you start telling people, because you're not healed, there's sin in your life, that's a violation of God's word. Amen. Book of John, disciples said, hey, Jesus, this blind guy, who sinned? Him or his parents? And he said, neither. So we've got to be careful. I guess that would actually go back better to words. It was Satan told Eve, if you eat the tree, you'll be just like God. He doesn't want you to be like him. Oh, they don't want you in that church. God's never going to heal you. You ever heard stuff like that? You're worthless. Nobody cares, nobody loves. Come on, we've all dealt with those things happening. Let's just face the fact. So when that happens, we've got to take authority over it. I'm going to show you that here in just a little bit. But a thought is simply a device of the mind, and the mind is faulty. If you depend on your emotions to make it in your faith, you're not going to make it. Because when everything breaks loose in your life, and it's hard and it's frustrating, and all you've got are your feelings and how you feel today, you will feel different tomorrow than you feel right now. Not just physically. Emotionally, we've got to be careful. And the enemy uses the mind, probably more often than anything else, to keep us out. So someone's not been here for a couple of weeks, call them, text them, email them, Facebook, whatever, and say, hey, I missed you. Yeah, one more thing on Facebook. Be careful how we tell people we missed them from church on Facebook. Send them a private message. Seriously. When you put it on their Facebook, missed you at church the last 6.5 months. What does that say to others who are reading that post? So send something privately, okay? That's just a little bit of housekeeping. That's free. Pay for that, but it's just online. And we can't freely reason without spiritual restraint and spiritual control. In other words, if all you're letting happen is your mind and your thoughts just run rampant, and you don't put up a gate, you don't put up a fence, you don't try to fight them off, guess what happens? You end up an emotional wreck. I believe in antidepressants. I do. I believe in counseling. I believe in spiritual counseling. I believe that sometimes after the birth process, after Jennifer gave birth to Hannah, she had preeclampsia, severe preeclampsia, to the point that they told us if she gave birth to Hannah, one or the other might die. We were told that. Christian doctor said, I have to tell you that. She said, I know you're Christians. We trusted God, and we dropped off Hannah this week in Minneapolis, so she's fine. And Jennifer's taping me right now for posterity's sake, so she's fine. But I also know after that birth, because of the high blood pressure issues, her serotonin level was gone. And thankfully, there was some medicine that kind of helped get things back on track. We have demonized a lot of the medicine that is out there. We're thankful for good Christian doctors who will work with you and get things straightened out and worked on. Because when you go through physical things, it drains your bodies of some of the chemicals you need. And epinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin can be shot in your brain with the birth process, other surgeries, other cancers and things like that. It all affects us. And so that Christian says, I don't need the medicine. You might. Because there might be something else going on in your body. I'm not saying don't trust the Lord. Start with the Lord and then go from there. All right, here we get down to it. So, we got to take authority right now. Perfect obedience is only possible after you have captured the thoughts in your head. So if you're here today and you say, Pastor Dana, I think about how worthless I am all the time. I guarantee there are some of you in this room that deal with depression and thoughts and things like that. Don't feel like you're alone, because you're not. Not that we're going to say that's a normal thing in the world, but in the church we've ignored that and kind of hit back from it. And people who get depressed from time to time are made out to feel like they're less citizens. You're not. You're a human. You have kids, you have a spouse, you have relationships, you have jobs, you have this, you have life, you have stress, right?
That's right.
And the church is the only organization that shoots its wounded. So we got to be careful with that. 2 Corinthians 10:6, we're ready to punish all disobedience whenever your obedience is complete. Paul was saying, get aggressive and merciless in your thoughts when it comes to taking care of some of these things. Because we have to fear and submit our ideas and our opinions. Because your ideas and your thoughts, on and in your own, they are faulty. Why? Because they're human. We have to say, Lord, I need you to sanitize that thought I just had. Because that's the flesh trying to figure this out. So we have to fear and submit our ideas. Lay them at His feet, and then God will be able to manifest Himself in us and through us. We also have to learn to accept discipline, that our mouths may be instructed as to not speak loosely, our minds not to argue, and our hearts not to offer counsel. So we have to attack that thought. We have to attack the thought at the first glimpse of where it's taking us. And literally attack rebellion at any stage. All right. I call this the fly awareness. You're going to see me act like a fool for a little bit, and that's fine. How many of you have been sitting around the house, watching TV, reading a book, studying something, and all of a sudden you hear the fly? It's buzzing around. You swat it. You go back to reading your thing, and it's there, and you swat it. And you try to block it out, but it's, and you're in the middle of your altar call, and you're trying to, it just keeps, going for a while. So you go back to doing what you're doing. And it's gone again. You go back to doing what you're doing. And this is how we treat sin sometimes. This is how we treat those thoughts coming in. We just kind of put up with it. What's this thing? Get away from me, because it's nuts. And we just keep going back to doing what we're doing. And it won't go away. It won't go away. It just keeps buzzing and buzzing and so, you go back to your work, and you're doing your stuff. Now you've got the tool you need to kill it because, you just got to put up with it before. Somebody shut the door! The window's upstairs open because this thing keeps getting in my face. I want this thing killed. I will give $5 to any kid that kills this one. And pretty soon, you're chasing it. Lamb, 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 lamb. Now what if we did that same reaction with that thought that comes in your head? You're worthless. I am not. I am God's child. He died for me. I have value and worth. I'm a child of the King. Because here's the thing. You don't storm the gates of hell quietly or politely. And for far too long, we have just allowed the enemy to get in our head and stay there. Instead of taking the authority God's Word gives us to take every thought captive. Because if we don't, it affects our reasoning, and then it affects our thoughts, and then it affects our words. Right? So why do we just take it easy? Worship team, go ahead and come back up the platform. I have had, and this church knows, for the last 6 to 8 months, I have had an emphasis on the need to pray out loud. I'm not talking loud. I'm not talking raising our voices. I'm not talking yelling. There's not one case in the Bible for silent prayer. I learned to pray because a board member at Burkesville Assembly walked in chairs like this, some pews beside me, and prayed. I learned how to pray. I learned about how to pray for things I never knew I could pray about because I heard this man pray. Some of you are telling me, man, your son prays kind of like you do. Because I prayed out loud in front of my son all of his life. All 3 of my kids. But I wonder sometimes why we don't take care of the thoughts that are coming at us and against us with aggression. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And so when that thought comes into your head that you are worthless, he's doing everything he can to put you down, rob you of your faith, put you on your knees, and actually make you go to hell. Think about this. He's not there to give you a head cold and cause you trouble. He is trying to destroy your spiritual life. And so if we treat temptation and those things in our mind like a fly that'll go away, he won't. He'll keep coming back and coming back. And when you defeat that pattern, he'll figure out another way to come. Until the day you die, you're going to have a spiritual battle on your hands. And you got to stay up to it. And you got to keep fighting. And you got to take those thoughts captive. Every single day. You got to take those thoughts captive and you got to fight. You got to fight. So in your words, in your thoughts, in your reasoning, it's up to you. It's up to you. I know Christians that will never go anywhere because they will not fight the thoughts or the ideas coming into their heads. They are content to just let it go and feel what the enemy tells them. How they are, who they are. So know what the Word says. Know what the Word says. Know what the Word can do. You have power against the enemy. You have authority. You have to take authority in your thoughts. You have to take authority in your reasoning. You have to take authority with your words. Because if and when we don't, we won't be standing very long. Great falling away, the little mini run called, it's already here, folks. We see it, we know it, it's here. I don't want to be a part of it. So that means I keep my eyes on the Word, my eyes on Him, eyes on faith, and I fight those things. So real quick today, if you're here today and you say, Pastor Dana, I struggle with things I hear about myself, things that make me want to, look, there may be people here who are having suicidal thoughts because the enemy is pushing in your head. I'm glad you're here. I want you to know Christ has life for you. If you're here and you struggle with depression, I got good news for you. David was depressed. It comes out of some of the Psalms he wrote. He was mad at the world. He got mad at God sometimes. Why can't you get along with people? Did you ever read about Paul and Barnabas? They almost came to fisticuffs. And they separated over John Mark. But they came back together. So you're thinking, man, I have all these issues and things at work, my family, my marriage. You're struggling with thoughts. You're here today, you say, Pastor Dana, I have thoughts come in my head that I wish I did not have. Whether it's lust, pride, anger, unforgiveness. I'm telling you what. Take the thoughts captive and begin to fight those things. If that's you and you struggle today with anything in your thought, I want you to just get up right where you are. This is not going to be head bowed, eyes closed. If that's you, I want you to just come and stand here in the front and begin to thank the Lord for what He's done in your life. Thank the Lord for the power He's given you to overcome. Thank Him for who you are in Christ. You are His son, you are His daughter, you are His child. His death on the cross, the resurrection from the earth, was to make sure you are not bound by those things. Folks, I know there's more. You deal with depression, you deal with anxiety, you deal with thoughts of worthlessness. There may be some people who deal with suicidal thoughts from time to time. It's the enemy, I'm telling you. He wants to set some people free today, but it's up to you to step up. Take authority over the thoughts.